All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Todd Browse. I will be your host for the evening. I'm here with Susan Schultz and Ashley Wilson, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to our startups group, we have a few announcements at the beginning of each meeting. We'll do some short networking breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together for our main event. And first off is our mission. We're here to help foster and fortify an innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. Our goal is to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to grow their businesses from the ground up. Susan.
And there are so many ways to get and stay in touch with us. So we have our website, we have our YouTube channel with all the presentations where we got permission from the presenter to post them. We have a newsletter that you can sign up to if you haven't already, and you'll get fun little notices saying of stuff that's coming up. If you're in HBAP or have been there, we have a Slack channel, entrepreneurship. And then always bring a guest, or if you want to speak or you know somebody cool that you think would like to speak, let us know and we will be happy to have a chat with them for sure. And then just a reminder, recordings will be posted publicly on YouTube unless the presenter says otherwise. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up. So after today with Jeff, who's going to be amazing, and will be fun to hear from him. Next week, we have Mike Salguero, who is the CEO of ButcherBox, and he's been on the forefront of claims-based meat movement his entire career. And claims-based meat is, in case you don't know, because I didn't know, is any kind of meat that has a very specific claim like grass-fed or organic or antibiotic free. And his passion is really to get that kind of beef available to the larger community in the US. And then he's got a big emphasis on animal welfare, the environment, and supporting farmers and fishermen. And so he's going to talk to us next week about his journey. And he actually lives in Cambridge, Mass. And then on March 26th, Todd is going to give us a part 2 on agentic AI. And then on April 16th, Nick, our own Nick, is going to give us a discussion of oratory mastery with an analytics edge. So what Nick's done as a business is combine his analytics background and his passion for oratory and debating, and he's going to talk to us about that. And then sometime in March or April, we'll have that workshop that we talked about in the de-risking your organization, the power of customer discovery, because enough of you said you wanted some hands-on practice on the things that we showed you in that workshop. So just in keeping with our whole mission, we just want to remind everybody that we're here to and have created this really cool, inclusive environment for everyone of collaboration and trust. And then, as always, all rights are reserved by the presenter. We follow our honor codes. We also follow the Francis Fry feedback approach with one modification, which is basically really focus on giving positive feedback that's easier and more digestible for the presenters, which will help them more. And there always no personal recording of the sessions. And then as always, if there's something you want to talk about or discuss with us, just reach out to Todd, me, or Ashley, and we will be happy to help.
All right, so let me open up a few breakout rooms. I'll see everyone in about 5-6 minutes. Back. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope everyone had lots of fun in their breakout rooms. Just as a little reminder, when you leave Zoom this evening, please, you'll see a little pop-up window in your favorite web browser. Please fill out that survey when you exit. We are data scientists, we are data analytics people, so filling out surveys saves our lives, so please do that. And also just a little reminder, this recording will be made public on our YouTube channel, and at the end of the evening, we will stop the recording, and we will stick around for some overtime, so please do hang out afterwards. Now it is my honor to introduce tonight's speaker, Professor Jeff Bussgang. Jeff is a senior lecturer at a very small university that many of you may have never heard of, Harvard Business School. And in addition to teaching and mentoring students at HBS, he's the co-founder and general partner at Flybridge Capital, an early-stage VC firm with offices in Boston and New York City, and over $1 billion under management across 6 seed funds and 9 network funds. At HBS, Jeff teaches launching technology ventures, a rather popular class for MBA students who are starting their companies or pursuing startup careers. Before becoming a venture capitalist, Jeff was the co-founder and president of UPromise, which was acquired by Sallie Mae, and he was an executive team member at Open Market, which I believe had a rather exciting IPO back in 1996. In addition to his latest book, The Experimentation Machine, and I will not spoil the ending for you all again, you're all just going to have to read that book, but it's basically an essential guide to building a startup in the age of AI. Jeff is also the author of Entering Startup Land, an essential guide to finding the right job at a startup, and Mastering the VC Game, an essential guide for entrepreneurs raising capital and building their startups. Jeff, you basically write essential guides for stuff like for people like us, right? Okay, rapid fire mode. Over 50 HBS case studies, teaching notes, and book chapters. He started his career with the Boston Consulting Group, and he's got an MBA from HBS, a Bachelor's of Arts, BA in Computer Science from Harvard College. He's an active community member, particularly in the areas of social justice, diversity, and equity, and he's on the board of Hack Diversity, Leads, and Facing History and Ourselves. Lastly, as a special guest to everyone who's attending tonight, and thanks to Kelly Kimball for his generous sponsorship, if you stick around until the end of the evening, everyone here gets digital copies of The Experimentation Machine, and I will post a Google form in the Zoom chat later on tonight, so please make sure to fill that out. And now, without further ado, as is our custom here at HBAP Startups, if we could all please briefly unmute ourselves and give a warm round of applause to Professor Jeff Bussgang.
Hey, thank you.
Hey.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us tonight. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Todd. This is great. I've never had the unmuted round of applause. That's pretty cool. I'm really excited to be with this group. As you said, Todd, this is a group that cares a lot and knows a lot about entrepreneurship, data analytics, and AI. So maybe some of what I'm going to cover will be familiar to you, but it's steeped in my work, both, as you noted, as an active practicing venture capitalist, and at Flybridge, all we do is AI investing. And we've been doing that for many years. And also from my work at HBS, where I work with many, many AI forward founders and teach a class, as you noted, a popular MBA class called Launching Tech Ventures, which is a very AI forward class. So I've got a few slides. What would a faculty member at HBS be without their PowerPoint, or in the modern era, Gamma? So these are a few Gamma generated slides and a mix of Gamma and PowerPoint. But just to kind of tell you the punchline here is this book that I've written, it is really just simply focused on how you can become a 10x entrepreneur leveraging modern AI tools. That's really the simple playbook and the simple thesis. And the way that I think about going about that is I kind of take this attitude. These are the other books that I've written, as Todd noted, and if people have questions about any of them, obviously feel free. But as Todd noted, and as I said, like my whole focus is what I refer to as this 10x framework with this book. And the 10x framework says, look, basically, you all can in your business world can basically now run experiments faster and more effectively than ever before. You know from the Lean Startup and Eric Ries, you know from Steve Blank and the Lean Canvas that innovation is all about running experiments. That's not new news. The new news is leveraging the modern AI tools to run those experiments more efficiently and effectively. And so just in the same way that we all know about the mythical 10x developer who's 10 times more effective than the average software developer, largely because of all these modern cloud and collaboration tools, we're entering an era of the 10x founder, the 10x entrepreneur, the 10x salesperson, the 10x marketer, the 10x consultant, analyst, mayor, even, as my colleague Professor Mitch Weiss talks about. Maybe some of you hope to be 10x parents. And the way to do that is by leveraging the modern AI tools and having this experimentation mindset. So that's the whole focus of the book. And that's what I'll cover now. I'm gonna, I like your note, Andy, trying to be a 1x parent. I'm a 3-time parent trying to be a 10x parent for all 3 of my kids. So what I'll try to do in the next like 15, 20 minutes is give you a spin through the big concepts in the book, and then I'll just open it up for questions and feedback. And for you guys to know, if you go to the book website or go to Amazon, what you'll see is the book is actually launching next week officially. So you're hitting me at a fun time for me, because this is one of the first book talks that I'm doing. Tomorrow I'm going to be at HBS doing a book talk at the Chow Center for 100 or so colleagues and students. The OpenAI team has very graciously invited me to come out to San Francisco, so I'll be at OpenAI and Microsoft and Cloudflare and a couple other places out in the Valley in a couple weeks, and then doing a few things in New York. So I'm at the beginning of the virtual and physical book tour. So let me just kind of lay some of the groundwork before I talk about some of the concepts in the book. I've been, as Todd noted, I've been around for a while. I was an Internet 1.0 era entrepreneur in the mid-90s. My company went public, and I was very blessed to be a part of an incredible era and age. And as an investor, I've been a part of the cloud era and the mobile era and the crypto Web3 era. I will tell you that the AI wave is vastly larger than any of these other ones. And I feel very blessed that at the beginning of my career, I got to begin in the Web 1.0 era. And here now, 3 decades later, I get to be a part of this incredible internet wave. And the reason for that, simply put, is the speed with which these models keep getting better and better and better. And guys, I studied computer science. I was an AI major and focus area in computer science in the 1980s at Harvard. When we dreamed of the things that are created today, we had no comprehension of this capacity and capability. And the speed of iteration, as noted in this chart, the log scale, both of the rapid drop in costs in compute and the deep research, the DeepSeek launch was an R1 launch was an incredible example of that. And the incredible performance with this top dotted line here, the human PhD dotted line, which just now DeepSeek, Gemini, O3 from OpenAI are all approaching this level of capability. And as Ethan Mollick of Wharton likes to say, you know, the AI we're all using today, all these models that you have at your fingertips are the worst AI you will ever use going forward. These things just keep getting better and better and better. And so what does that mean? It means that there's trillions of dollars up for grabs in transformative value creation. PwC recently wrote this report that by 2030, $16 trillion of value will be created. These numbers are so large, it's hard to even get your head around them. $7 trillion in productivity, $9 trillion in incremental consumption. And if any of you have studied Geoffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm, or any of the other academic papers from the 70s that book was rooted on around technology lifecycle adoption curves, you know that when there's most normal adoption cycles, it takes time for innovators and then early adopters and early majority to begin to embrace this technology. That's not happening today. OpenAI has transformed the adoption curve. ChatGPT has 300 million users, active users, in just 2 years of deployment. Every single major corporation is fearful that if they're in the late majority or in the laggard quadrants of this chart, they're going to have their lunch eaten. Even the cloud disruptors, companies like Salesforce and Adobe and ServiceNow and SAP and Oracle, the big infrastructure companies, they're afraid of being disrupted by the little software companies that Flybridge and I invest in the coming years. So this world of adoption is just incredible to see how rapidly it's happening. And if you look at the most advanced companies, you hear the examples in the quarterly earnings and some of the reports and public pronouncements. It's a little bit of AI efficiency theater, someone called it, which I think is a very cute term. They're all, you know, thumping their chest to talk about how incredible their implementations and how impactful their AI effectiveness looks like. Google reporting that 1 out of 4 lines of code is now written by AI. That was a few months ago. Right now, I would guess it's more like 30 to 35%. Amazon's Andy Jassy, who's coming on campus actually to HBS to brief us in a couple of weeks to meet with some of the faculty. Actually, I think he's coming in 2 weeks on Monday the 10th. He talks about the AI tooling that they did is saving 4,500 developer years. Parenthetically, he puts in his post, yes, that number is crazy, but real. Klarna reports that their Gen AI is cutting marketing by tens of millions of dollars annually to make the company more efficient. So you see these incredible AI forward efficiency gains, but that's the story at the top end of the market. And Meta, by the way, like Mark Zuckerberg can't stumble into an interview without talking about AI. He had this great quote in the Acquired podcast. If you don't listen to this podcast, by the way, it's a fantastic podcast. I'm a huge fan of it. But Mark Zuckerberg had this great quote. He said, he was asked by the team, like, what's your strategy at Meta? And he said, our strategy is to learn and iterate as quickly as possible. Like, if we can just learn faster than any other company, we're going to win. And what that tells you is that we're entering into a mode where experimentation and iteration are what everyone is focused on from a competitive landscape. So let me now get into the weeds on the book. So that's sort of some of the macro context, much of which you all know. What I talk about in the book is that we are entering a mode where the AI copilot, which is the AI tooling that allows you as a human to operate more effectively, is being replaced by agentic AI, where there's going to be decision-making done by these agents for you, where there are going to be actions that are taken across a range of modalities, whether it's online booking of vacation travel or executing transactions or sending wires. Some really extraordinary things that are happening right now as agents are beginning to consume the focus of the AI forward ecosystem. And so as a founder and as an executive, as an entrepreneur, the question is, well, what do you do in this environment? How do you leverage these tools? We as investors have begun to think about this opportunity, and this kind of points back to the PwC study, is not just a software opportunity, but a transformational opportunity. If you look at the software spend in various categories, and this is an example of an analysis we did. By the way, we did this analysis using Perplexity and deep research in 1/10 the time it normally would have taken my analyst to do this work. We did this analysis where we looked at vertical industries and payroll spending and payroll automation. A nice sort of standard horizontal process that occurs across many, many industries. And when you look at payroll, you say, well, the software spend in the industries that we looked at is on the range of $260 billion. And we looked at dozens and dozens of these industry codes. Well, in the $8.6 trillion spend on payroll, we think 4 trillion could be automatable with AI agents, where the AI agents are doing the work of the humans and making decisions and taking actions, again, across many modalities, which means that the opportunity for entrepreneurs is not just to provide software for this industry, but to transform work. And we're seeing this trend across many other industries. We have 2 companies in the legal space, for example, a very popular field for AI transformation and disruption. One of our AI companies has been adopted by 20 of the top 25 law firms already. And what those law firms are doing is using this tool, the company is called Noetica, to ingest all of their contracts for private credit transactions and then give them insight onto terms and do benchmarks across the terms, both comparing private and all the public credit transactions, to make the process of negotiating the contracts for future transactions more efficient. And again, this is not just IT spending. This is total workflow transformation, business process transformation, replacing the human work that might otherwise have been undertaken by those lawyers. And so when we look at agentic AI as investors, and when I talk about it with my students, I say, look, if you think about the traditional seed stage startup that we've been investing in for the last few decades, the normal formula would be you'd do a couple $1 million seed round. You'd build a team of a dozen or 15 folks, 8 or 10 engineers, a couple go-to-market people and operational people. and you try your best to get to a $1 million of ARR, of annual recurring revenue, in order to hit that milestone to get to the Series A. Well, today, what's happening is that agents are in organizations as frequently as humans. You've got these seed stage startups leveraging these agents for coding, marketing, customer service, sales enablement, etc. And now you're seeing seed stage startups with 2 or 3 employees achieving over $1 million of ARR and building extraordinarily rapidly. Sam Altman from OpenAI has this great quote that he gave last year that really is, in essence, the theme of the book. He says, there's a betting pool with my CEO friends as to what year we will see a one-person billion-dollar company. We have a belief at Flybridge that organizations of all kinds, for-profit, not-for-profit, civic, and private sector, we're going to have more AI agents working in those organizations than humans by a very large factor. There's a great tweet recently from a A16Z investor. He said, I've lost count of the number of startups that have gone from 0 to 10 million in the last 12 months, thanks to AI. So the acceleration that we're seeing in the field from these AI forward companies, leveraging their tooling, leveraging these agents to increase their velocity rapidly is just extraordinary. And so the essence of the book, and I have it here. I just got the physical copy 2 nights ago, so I'm really quite excited about it. Just in time for my book talk at Harvard Business School tomorrow night. But the essence of the book is, how do you leverage these modern AI tools in combination with timeless techniques for building value? And one of those timeless techniques is taking a page from experimental design, taking a scientific approach, being very rigorous in designing these experiments and testing hypotheses, and then in making decisions. Because what's human, what's sort of the core root of the human incorporation into this AI forward world is judgment, creativity, taste, strategy, and judgment. And what that means is that although you can design all these experiments and execute all these experiments, the decision what experiments to run, what metrics to focus on, what strategy to have, those are indelibly human decisions. And so that's really the essence of the book, is combining the timeless techniques that are very human and very, let's say, enduring to build value, and the timely AI tools. And I describe this company, Topline Pro, as a case study. And so in the book, I do about 8 or 10 case studies, many of which are very new case studies that I've written for my course, talking about startups who are leveraging AI and leveraging this experimentation mindset on the product market fit and scaling journey. And Topline Pro is a great example of that. And I'll just say briefly, because I know we're running short on time, but this is a company that's doing a website service platform for pros. So think of this as your plumber, your electrician, your landscaper. When they want to create a web page, when they want to communicate with customers, book appointments, and do all the sort of CRM types of things, how do they do that? This is a company that provides that. Service Titan, a recently public company, is the, let's say, cloud or old school version of this category. Topline Pro is the AI forward version. What they've done is they've incorporated AI into everything that they do. They've created a custom GPT to score their leads that define their outbound lead candidates. They use a bunch of the modern video tools to create personalized product demo videos of sales reps scrolling through the individual pro's website. And they create those websites using AI by ingesting the pro's Facebook pages and Instagram pages, capturing thousands and thousands of content and pages. And their response rate has been extraordinary. They've gone from a 1% response rate to a 10% response rate with these personalized AI avatar-driven videos. And they also have a chatbot. The chatbot allows them to respond to questions and let pros edit the website themselves and have a discussion about this picture I want to include, and can you reprice my service this way and that way, all in an automated fashion. With only a few dozen employees, this is a company that's grown tremendously and is servicing thousands and thousands of customers. And it used to be that we had this belief that you couldn't do SMB marketing, small business marketing and sales, at scale. And now with these AI capabilities, companies can acquire and service these customers with a profit margin like never before. So if you want a glimpse into the future, there's this incredible long white paper by an ex-OpenAI researcher named Leopold Aschenbrenner called Situational Awareness. And one of the things he points out is that my earlier chart about the speed of improvement and how fast these models are getting better and better, we're getting to a point where we're going to hit this incredible inflection point where the AI can itself begin to do automated research on artificial intelligence. And this is already happening. There's a great startup in Japan that wrote a paper that was submitted in a peer-reviewed journal and received terrific feedback and was viewed to be at the level of a postdoc in terms of its quality. And it was all generated by an AI. So this ability for AI to begin to automate in and of itself AI research means that we're going to start bending this knowledge and performance curve. And there's this argument that Leopold makes that we're going to see 4 orders of magnitude gain in 1 year because of this incredible recursive power. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And what that means is that all of you that are building on top of this infrastructure, building the applications on top of this infrastructure, you're going to inherit and benefit from those capabilities. And so the question that I used to ask my partner when we were in the big data and cloud era, we invested in MongoDB. We were the Series A investor in MongoDB. And one of the sort of defining theses that led to that investment was we would ask ourselves, what if we had 1,000 the amount of the information at our fingertips that we have today? What could we do differently? What would the world look like? And now the question is, well, what if you had a million people working for you that were the smartest people in the world, that had all the knowledge of the world and all the knowledge of physics and engineering and science and chemistry and computer science and AI? What if you had all of them working for you for free? What could you achieve? And that's sort of the moment that we seem to be coming into, I would argue. The final thing I'll say, this shows this also from Leopold's white paper, as the superintelligence kicks into gear, we're going to see some incredible inventions in science. We're going to see some incredible breakthroughs in robotics. I was recently at Boston Dynamics. The things that they're doing to merge Gen AI with their incredible robots is just extraordinary. And then, of course, we're going to see some incredible things in the military, which has been talked about quite frequently recently with Anduril and Shield AI and some of the other incredible companies that are following Palantir's footsteps in the defense tech world. So that's the essence of what's in the book. The book is for founders, but it's really for everyone. And the questions I'll leave you with before I open it up for questions, Todd, and I'll let you facilitate, of course, is, 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, how AI native do you feel like you are today? 2, how can you harness AI's power to improve that score? Because AI can be your tutor to help you with learning more about AI. And the book certainly can help, but even more importantly is seizing your own knowledge to begin to use these tools to learn yourself and get down this learning curve. And then finally, this final question about how can you develop the skills to be a builder, an opportunity creator, and a 10x leader? I tell my MBA students, this is the most unique moment in history that I've ever been a part of, where to be a creator, you no longer need to have an engineer, a tech co-founder, a computer science degree. You don't need that anymore. When we were investing in AI and machine learning companies 15 years ago, we required that one of the co-founders was a PhD in machine learning. Today, my students can leverage Cursor or V0 or any other of these rapid development tools and build, and they're building very, very rapidly. Before I open up to questions, Todd, I just want to acknowledge in the house is Scott Ford.
Yes.
And Scott, I just want to do a shout out for Scott, who's here. Scott is the founder of Spark Rockets. And Spark Rockets is a phenomenal company. It's a tool that allows founders to generate lean canvases just with some simple prompts. And Scott introduced me to this tool and very generously tutored me on it. And I actually incorporated it into an assignment for my students. And so I had my students use ChatGPT to generate startup ideas, use it to generate ideation, use it to generate the experiments and define experiments that they could employ to test the idea. And then I had them use spark rockets to generate a lean canvas to begin to develop the hypotheses that they could be testing. So some incredible tools that are, even in this community, people are working on building some incredible tools to help founders accelerate their 0 to 1 journey. So I'll stop there. I know I said a lot. I know I threw a lot at you. Let me open it up for questions.
This is fantastic. So, by the way, Jeff, would you believe it if I told you that Scott presented here at Startups a year ago?
Very cool.
So, and Scott, thank you. If you want to come off of mute.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for the shout out, Jeff. It was great. I was able to meet Jeff back in November when I was on campus there, and he's been a great supporter and great fan, and love the feedback. His students share a lot of feedback. He just sent me an email yesterday with a bunch of feedback from all of his students, both positive and negative. So it just helps us make the product better. So appreciate it very much.
I use and Scott, I need to catch up with you because I use Spark Rockets in the class that I teach as well. So, folks, if you have any questions, please raise your hands. I want to your Zoom hands, and I'll call on you. But so, Jeff, I've got so many questions; it's ridiculous. The first one is, where do you see the future of work? I mean, we are entrepreneurs. Where do you, looking forward? When we have these technologies that are able to augment and replace the workforce, is there any work in the future?
It's a great question. And look, I know there are a lot of economists who are labor economists who are studying this, and it's a hot debate. And you all know the two extreme responses that people give. One extreme response people give is they say, well, every time there's been a major invention, from steam engine and the Industrial Revolution to the information revolution, we've always, as a society, adjusted, and there have always been more and more jobs with the increase in productivity and efficiency. And so work's going to transform, it's going to change, it's going to be disrupted. But just like there are no more bank tellers today, there will be different kinds of jobs that will be created, and those jobs are going to be also really interesting and hopefully safer and higher paying. So that's sort of the let's say the techno optimist view. And the techno, I don't want to say pessimist, but the techno disruption view is that might have been true in past revolutions where the society had more time to adjust and adapt. We don't have that much time. These changes, as I showed you in my technology adoption curve, are happening faster than we can adapt to. And so the disruption might be greater than we think, and we might have hit peak employment right now in 2025. And we may be seeing a world where there are going to need to be fewer jobs and fewer workers. I was listening to a podcast. I won't cite the names because there's a lot of controversy about these individuals, but a bunch of venture capitalists who said that in effect, tightening immigration policy in the US was a good idea because with AI efficiency, you're going to see the slack in the workforce. And we don't want to have too many workers come in at a time when we're generating a lot of slack because of this big transformation.
So, I mean, if I can push back, my hypothesis is that we are looking at the beginning of a post-labor economy. Mo Godot said, quote, I love to quote him, he said, the smartest person you can hire is no longer human. So what the heck are we talking about? So why would I go, if I'm the CEO of a company or I'm the founder of a business, why would I go hire a person to do something that I can go hire an agentic AI to do? And do I not have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders and your VC? I have a responsibility to you to use the greatest technologies available.
Yeah, and my opening line in the book is not only a responsibility, but look, founders who use AI are going to replace founders who don't use AI. I mean, that's just the world we're in this hyper competitive world. And if you don't leverage these AI tools, your competitor will, and they'll eat your lunch. I like this comment by Craig about the 3-day work week. There was this famous economist who said that with the incredible information revolution or industrial revolution many hundreds of years ago, he said, my grandchildren are going to work 20 hours a week. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to bet none of us on this call work 20 hours a week. So there have been these incredible productivity improvements. We've all benefited from them, and we're all working extremely hard. Will this be the one moment where we'll bank some of these savings? Maybe. I'll just say one last comment. My son is a computer science minor in college, and he took a summer programming job. And his job was to port an application onto mobile and then to make it a more modern infrastructure. He used ChatGPT to help him in writing the code, and he worked 20 hours a week and goofed around with his girlfriend and drove across the country in a rented in his beat up Subaru for the rest of the time and did a bunch of hiking and whitewater rafting. So like that may be the future for many of our children. And that's probably okay. You know, if they're getting the job done and they're using the AI to make themselves more efficient, that's probably okay.
That's awesome. I've got one last question, and we'll go to the other folks who've got their hands up. So we are startups, we're entrepreneurs, so we're highly biased. Do you see an advantage to incumbents versus startups, or do you see this as a level playing field?
Again, I can make both arguments. When the cloud emerged and we invested in MongoDB, we said we're going to eat Oracle's lunch. We're going to have this incredible cloud native, internet native database company. MongoDB today is worth $25 billion. But if you look at Oracle's market cap over the last 10 years, it's also grown tremendously. We thought we were going to eat SAP's. Salesforce thought they were going to eat SAP's lunch. Salesforce has built a massive business. SAP's market cap has grown tremendously. So I kind of feel like we're in an era of winners and winners rather than winners and losers, where the incumbents will do great if, like Adobe and Salesforce, they can really embrace AI tooling throughout their product portfolios. And at the same time, there will be new companies that will be AI native that are going to do great as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. All right, so let's go to Victor, and then we'll go to Adolfo. Victor.
Yes, Jeff, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and congratulations on your book release. It's exciting.
Thank you.
I was listening to an element of your thoughts that struck me during the conversation about the legal use case. You've seen the entire evolution of AI and have been engaged in it apparently. And I struggle with the question, when you throw something as important as a legal analysis of contracts to do business decisions on, or even other use cases that are more consequential perhaps. And at the same time you discuss, or you mentioned the idea of the uniquely human element that has to be there alongside of the AI, and in particular the agentic AI. I'd love to get your thoughts on this thing I struggle with, which is the validation of the AI's contribution to the thing you're trying to achieve. Are we at a point where you're maybe trusting it, or do you have a validation cycle that you go through with every engagement with agentic AI or other forms of AI, just to reach back to the sanity of human judgment?
It's a great question, Victor. And one of the most interesting fields for us as investors is in the evaluation area, which is all about what you're speaking of, which is how do we evaluate the quality of the output and ensure that it's not only no hallucinations, but really high quality. And most of what I'm seeing many of our founders do is think of the AI as getting them 80% or 90% of the way there, but then ultimately using human judgment to review and finalize those decisions. One thing about the sort of agentic AI paradigm that OpenAI has been using with ChatGPT and with deep research as an example is, if you've used it yet, you notice that it's very interactive. It comes back to you, clarifying questions. What do you think of this? Would you like me to do something else? And I think that interactivity and testing and quality check is really quite critical and quite important. In areas like, let's just take medical, I think there's going to be a lot of guardrails that need to be put in place to make sure that the quality of the content and the quality of the decisions being made are going to be, true to form, so to speak, and falling within standards. And that may be an area where people are doing, let's say, the workflow and the administrative stuff and not touching the doctor stuff. I'll give you one example. I just wrote a case on a company called Summer Health, which is a telehealth company in the pediatric space, and their decision about whether to use AI or not in their platform and how exactly they should think about being an AI first company. I'll put in the link here. The case was just published just a few days ago. And the sort of the conclusion they came to, I'll give you the punchline, is that they said, look, we want the AI to help the docs be more efficient and handle all the administrative tasks, but it frees them up to be human with the patient. And it's the human-patient interaction that we want to save the most time for and eliminate all the administrivia and billing and payroll and operational and regulatory and filings with the healthcare companies. So that's sort of a few thoughts to answer your question.
I appreciate that, Jeff. And just to follow on to keep my feet grounded in this, when I do a research project using AI, I feel like I always have a follow-on research project to go through the citations, make sure they're complete, make sure there was nothing left out that was either of importance or perhaps an outlier that by itself is of importance in challenging everything that was just researched.
Yeah.
And to make that still human judgment of whether I accept the output or whether I go further. How do you feel about that?
I think that's part of the 80 to 90%, and that's the 10% that you want to provide in terms of human value add and oversight. I'll say one more thing. I know, Todd, we want to get time for other questions, but I've had this interesting conversation with some colleagues. So if we believe that humanity is all infusing in judgment and strategy, those of us on this call who are relatively senior have built up that judgment and that strategic thinking by first principles experience over time. And so one question that we have to ask ourselves, I think, is for young professionals today, 20 years from now, if they become very reliant on the AI tools to do some of the basic work, will they lack that seniority and judgment? Will they lean on the AI for that? Or, how's that exactly going to work? I think that's going to be an interesting conundrum for young professionals today who are leveraging these tools as opposed to having to do the long form division themselves because they may not understand the sort of, first principles in as deep a way as maybe people on this call do.
Yes, I agree with you. And the evolution is going to be quite interesting. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thanks, Victor. So with that strategic thinking, Jeff, what if we have an agentic AI today, right now, that can actually do that strategic thinking for you?
It can. I mean, look, that's the tools today, they're that good. The chain of analysis tools that people have been playing maybe with the O3 model as an example, or the recent 3.7 Claude Anthropic model, they're that good.
And you can download DeepSeek and run it on your computer. And it's almost at that level. We're seeing huge changes. Okay, Adolfo, you're up, and then we'll go to Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. This has been a very insightful discussion. I have a couple of questions. One is very simple, which is why are we still thinking 10x? Is it time to move the scale up? And that's just a thought. But my real question is about funding. And right now we're engaged in a funding round. And so my question to you, given that you have this unique perspective of being a VC, but also working on the impact of AI, how is this new paradigm going to impact funding from the startup perspective, the opportunities for funding? Are we going to be looking at VCs that are looking to find more efficiencies and perhaps fund smaller rounds?
Yeah.
What is your perspective? What are you thinking?
Yeah, and I'll try to be shorter in my answers because I see a lot of hands. So first, 10x is a parable, not a literal. I showed you that chart with four orders of magnitude. That's a 10,000x gain in improvement in 1 year. So I do believe we're going to see log scale improvements. Funding. As investors, we have two things we talk about. One, is this an AI forward founder? Do they know how to leverage AI to be 10x founders and instrument their organization? And two, the bar is really, really high now in terms of performance, because as I showed you, people are getting to 1 million of ARR with 2 employees, 10 million of ARR in less than a year with 5, 10 employees. So the bar is very high in terms of efficiency. And so that's going to be, I think, a really important standard because the companies we want to back are those companies, the ones that are AI native, leveraging these tools to accelerate their execution.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Adolfo. Tom, and then we'll go to Josh.
Yeah. So Adolfo, I think you read my mind. I was wondering, as an investor, how you see this playing out. Now, for me as a founder, this is so scary. I've been doing the AI stuff for a very, very long time. 1994, my first neural network, right? And when I see what's happening, this idea of this billion-dollar company with one or two founders or something, it scares me because the economy isn't growing that fast. So it's somewhat of a zero-sum game. Um, some people are going to do very, very well, and some people won't do very well. Many people won't do very well. If I were an investor, I would see much less need for investment, right? And where does the need for VC come in? And let me just wrap this up with my question to you. Where are the moats? Where are the defensibilities
Yeah,
for
those
a
are two
company?
those are two huge and great questions. So if you can bootstrap and not raise VC capital, you should do that. No question. And I'm encouraging my students, bootstrap as long as you can, be builders, be opportunity creators. As I said earlier, don't just wait to raise capital and hire a CTO, go build. When my students say, well, I want to go raise a pre-seed or a seed round, I say, what have you built? Show me what you've built. Because you can be builders now, all of you. And then in terms of competitive moats, as investors, there are three things we've been talking about internally that we look for with our AI native startups to determine whether they will establish a competitive moat. One is, do they have access to proprietary data? So my example of Noetica, the legal AI company, they're getting the legal contracts of that law firm. No public models are seeing those contracts. And any company that has a data moat that's proprietary, I think can really establish some interesting value. Second is, are they owning and controlling the workflow? Are they a system of record for that task? So for example, we have an e-commerce AI company called Syrup AI based in New York City that's providing AI applied to automated inventory decisions, merchandising decisions, pricing decisions across omni-channel retailers. And the merchandisers are sitting in their Syrup system all day and making those decisions and having those decisions made for them and approving those decisions. To the earlier comment by Victor, the AI gets them 80, 90% there, and then they make the final decisions. So system of record owning the workflow. And then third, have they really perfected the human AI interface? You all know this. Product design, interfaces matter. There's this whole consumerization of the enterprise going on. You all know that on your phones, you have a certain expectation of how easy it is to use the apps. And when you use an enterprise app and it's not that easy, it's frustrating. And you say, well, why can't they design a beautiful app just like the beautiful apps I use on my phone? So that human AI interface and understanding where the human directs the AI and making that a beautiful interface and a seamless interface is going to be critical. Yeah, you mentioned about generative UI. We have a whole thesis on that, which I'll share with you in the chat. But yeah, this is a great area, a great question about where's the moat. I think it's a really interesting question.
Thank you.
There is no moat. Josh, you're up. Then Trevor. Josh?
You're on mute, Josh.
Unmute, Josh. We can't hear you.
Blast. I'm struggling without AI. But no, I was just wondering what your thoughts are on universal basic income if more and more of our work are going to be shifted towards AI and agents and, we move to this post-work society. What are some things we could think about, as citizens about, making that transition if such a thing is desirable?
I think it's a great question. I'm not sure UBI is near term really feasible or compelling or interesting. I'm kind of more interested in, as citizens, providing more access to more of the population to this innovation economy. So I have been spending a lot of time on this nonprofit that I co-founded called Hack Diversity, which brings more diverse engineers into the ecosystem. Because the more diverse and accessible and the fewer barriers there are for diverse populations into the innovation economy, the better. And then also, I think there's a lot of work we can do on safety nets as citizens.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's very thoughtful. Connecting people with more work and opportunities rather than handouts, like blanket handouts.
Thanks, Josh. Trevor, and then Grzina.
Hey Jeff, great to see you again. I still think about your session at the Harvard conference on Chat LTV. I hope you got a chance to finish the David Brooks book. But my question is around the principles that you lay out in your new book. I'm wondering how you think that they might apply to intrapreneurs, folks who are in like larger, maybe incumbent organizations today. Can we use some similar principles, or should we start thinking about things a little bit differently in terms of how we can make meaningful change in organizations with AI tools, given the constraints of large organizations?
Yeah, Trevor's referring, by the way, to this internal chatbot I created for my course, which I trained on my course content and make available to my students. So my students have 24/7 access to me, both through the chatbot, which is trained on the course, and then also I have a personal AI chatbot, which I created using Delphi and trained on my content. The course chatbot is trained on all the cases, and the Delphi chatbot is trained on in my books, and the Delphi chatbot is trained on my books and all my other writing. And some personal stuff. So it's kind of a fun like set of tools for my students. I don't think I had the AI chatbot when you heard me talk about this last, Trevor. So that's a new thing. So so your question was around. Sorry, remind me. I got lost on the. I was so excited to share these chatbots with you guys.
Yeah, just like entrepreneurship, right? So
Entrepreneurship. Yes,
for
thank you.
anyone who's like working within an incumbent organization,
Yes.
a larger organization, do the same principles apply, or is it
I
different?
think they do. Look, I think this idea of experimentation is super valuable in larger companies. Intuit has really embraced this culture, and you see a lot of Intuit's writing on this topic. Booking.com talks about the fact that they run thousands of experiments a day on their websites like Priceline and elsewhere. And that's incredibly powerful for them as they iterate and use these data-driven tools to make faster and better decisions on more efficient travel booking. So yeah, I do think that this experimentation mindset is extremely powerful for intrapreneurs, and we're going to see more and more companies. Again, there's a quote in the chat about Salesforce and Mark Benioff, like all these executives at the AI forward companies are eating their own dog food and realizing that they need to re-instrument their organizations to be more AI forward and more agentic forward. So I think we're going to see that ripple through the economy. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Regina, and then we'll go to Yvonne.
Yes. So I do have my own questions, but I'm actually quite fascinated what you just said. You have a bot trained on the cases in your book. So I'm wondering, Jeff, have you looked at some of the answers that bot generated and see, do you ever have an argument saying, I disagree with you, bot, or so? How accurate
It's a
is
great question. Yeah,
What
I have two admin interfaces for each of the two bots. And so I can correct the answers and train the answers more effectively. And so it helps. And also I can see what the students are asking, which is really interesting because it gives me insight when I walk into the classroom, what the students are wrestling with before the class. So I look at night. I taught Monday and Tuesday this week. So Sunday night, I look at the bot traffic and I see what the students are asking. I go to sleep. My class is at 10 a.m. At 6:30 in the morning, I'm back online, and a slew of questions have come in. Like they're all doing their like midnight to 2 in the morning homework and prep for the case, just like all of you might have done before your whatever your AB course. And so that's the pattern. And then I can walk into class and I can see what they've done. And if I don't like the answers the bot is given, I can retrain the bot.
And how often do you have to retrain? Or is it getting better? It's learning on
It does get better, and it learns. It continues to learn and gets better and better. And this is my second year with the course bot and my first year with the AI clone. And they're both getting quite good.
The second year, so it's a second time for the class?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible.
I've been teaching the class for 15 years, but it's the second time I've used the chat, and I keep renewing the class to make it fresh and current, and it's fused with AI, and it's the second time that I've used the chat bot for the class. Second class cohort.
That's incredible. And so speaking of renewing, that was my question, or one part of it. So over the years, at least the last decade, how has your view changed, or how you selecting the companies to invest in? Or maybe most recently, was there some profound changes that happened given this AI advent?
Yeah, as I said earlier, 2 years ago, as a firm, we shifted to investing only in AI forward founders.
Okay.
And then we had these criteria for competitive moats that I mentioned, the 3 criteria. So we've pretty dramatically shifted our view on what a winning founder needs to look like in 2025.
All right. And second part of it, for those that are perhaps not planning to start their own company, but looking to work for one, what do you suggest? What does the winning company looks like these days? How do you select a company to work for, invest your time and effort in?
That's a great question. I have an annual list that I create called the Startup Rocket Ship list, and I'll send a link for that in the chat. And you'll see the criteria that I use for that list. And it's a really great question, and I'm updating that list as we speak. I release it every spring, so I'm working on the 2025 version as we speak. And yeah, it's a great question. I really think for people who want to join a startup, you want to join a rocket ship, and you want to join a company that's growing and that's dynamic and that's a leader in the field, and where you can see a lot of great growth.
Right. All right. Well, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks
Thank you for sharing.
Jeff, how are we doing on time?
I should probably wrap in a few minutes.
All right. Do we have time for Yvonne, Lilith, and I know Susan's got a question.
Yeah, let's do 3. I'll be shorter in my answers.
Okay, sounds great. So Yvonne, then Lilith, and then Susan, and we'll wrap.
Yeah. Hi, Jeff. My question is around everything that AI is producing. So people talk about, humans with AI, and those are the ones who are going to win. But the reality, as you play around with these things, the amount of data and what it's producing is so good that I think the expectation on asking the human to be the one who's intervening with regards to what you said, the judgment, the decision making, I just don't see how that happens. I mean, we humans are lazy. And at a certain point, you receive so much information that you're going to default to the AI. At least that's, I would love to get your view on this. I can see it if you force it to not be good, where the human will intervene. But given the results of what you can get, research, the ideas, I just don't see how people are being expected to be the ones who are intervening as the AI is working.
It's a very nuanced question, Yvonne, and I appreciate it because it's I think, very sensitively framed, and I don't know the answer. I think there are, as I said, a lot of work being done right now in the evaluation area, which provides programmatic human judgment to inform quality of AI responses, and that hopefully is I know it's getting better and better. But you're right, humans are lazy. That's why TikTok is as popular as it is. So I'm just not sure we can rest on human judgment. It's a fair retort.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Lilith, then Susan.
Thank you, Jeff. I do a little bit of angel investing. So as an investor, I'm looking at the exits, right? And I would love to get your idea on how the AI is shaping the future of exits. Are we, from my point of view, when I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing any more traditional exits, right? Is it going to be a loop of evolving growth engine that the AI driven companies will create for themselves? Or do you feel like there would even be AI model acquisitions instead of company acquisitions?
It's a great question. We're exiting the last 3 years of very weak liquidity, and there have been very few IPOs, and there's been very little M&A. And so there's a belief that 2025 will be different post-election, maybe a more let's say, business-friendly regulatory environment, a whole bunch of other potential things. And so this, the title of my quarterly letter to my investors this quarter is The Return to Animal Spirits, ? So, maybe this is a year where we begin to see the return of animal spirits, and where the big public companies no longer are afraid of the FTC hammering them on antitrust issues, and where they begin to acquire again, where people want to acquire AI capabilities. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting moment in time around M&A, and whether the IPO window will open up again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lilith. Susan.
This has been so great, Jeff, and thank you so much. So, as you heard at the very beginning, we had a conversation on customer discovery, which is all about experimentation, right? When you do it correctly, and so there's a group of us from that are going to be building an app to make it an AI forward app to make customer discovery a lot easier, because right now it's pretty labor intensive and it's very heavily weighted on that human judgment piece. But my question for you is, what I found being super passionate about customer discovery, especially the last 4 years, where we did it with my startup and we completely pivoted based on the results of the customer discovery, we found, and my fellow speakers found, that the biggest barrier to experimentation is this human hubris, right? Like, we already know what the answer is. We don't need to go out and experiment. We know better than the customer what they're looking for. So would love to hear your thoughts on that, and looking forward to reading about that more in your book as well.
Yeah, I do deal a lot with that in the book. In fact, I have some of the answers in better prompting. We've all learned how to be great at search on Google, and we're not particularly great at prompting. We try to apply search techniques, which are very terse in what we're doing. And so I have a whole appendix on AI prompting tips and examples, because in truth, because these models do better with more information, the more information you can feed, the better. So you should be giving it documents and longer prompts and extensive back and forth, as I said, from an interactivity standpoint, to provide it with context. So yeah, I think you're right. I think you need to show, put in a little bit of effort and learn a little bit the new paradigm of prompting and working with these models.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Susan. Jeff, last question. I ask my students this: what are the forever jobs in the age of AI, and what are the jobs that should go away?
Well, certainly any jobs where people are working with their hands and working in service industries with humans. So, for example, I think nurses and healthcare workers and home care workers for the elderly, that's, we're not going to see robots caring for the elderly anytime soon. I think that's a pipe dream that's many, many decades away. I think that, a lot of the world of construction and physical labor, and one of the reasons I love Topline Pro is that the value of a plumber, an electrician, and a welder is greater than ever, landscapers, etc. I like Trevor's comment in the text, trying to get a plumbing apprenticeship on the side. Plumbers are doing really well right now. So yeah, I think those are going to be enduring vocations.
And what should go away? If you wave, it's like these jobs, AI should take over.
Yeah, I don't want to be pejorative, because I want to be careful, but just imagine any job where there's a lot of automation, a lot of rote, and in particular jobs where it's $200,000 annual salary, $300,000 annual salary. It's no surprise that there's a lot of AI investment in law firm, in legal tech, in accounting, in consulting, and investment banking. There's a lot of very expensive people who do very rote work, and that work can probably be automated.
So no government officials. We should not get rid of government officials. Bless you.
As I said, my colleague, Professor Mitch Weiss at HBS, has a good line about the 10x founder and the experimentation machine applied to government. And maybe we eliminate all these jobs in City Hall, and maybe we don't even need the mayor. Maybe the AI just does the mayor's job. That's a whole nother speech that he gives that I'll let him do at an upcoming talk.
gonna have to ask him to come hang out with us as well. All right. Thank you all for Jeff. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank
My
everyone else
pleasure.
for joining. I'm gonna end the recording here. We will stick around for some overtime, so folks, you don't have to go home. Please stick around. Next week, we're off, but the March 12th, Mike Salguero, the CEO of Butcher Box, he will talk about bootstrapping your business, and I will see you all then.